Welcome to Abstraction Universe. This is SouthBay Spike, Spike from the band Abstraction. This is our first episode of Abstract Debunks. In this episode, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite horror franchises, The Evil Dead. Now, there's been a theory going around for a long time that Evil Dead 2 is a remake of the original film instead of a sequel. And I'm here to debunk all of that. In this video, I'll provide you all you need to know to debunk that theory. Rather than creating new threats in the cabin and surrounding forest, Sam Raimi stuck to a similar formula for the second film, but slightly expanded on what was already established. So there are many similarities between the two as far as certain sequences, but that hardly makes it a remake. Let's take a look at some of these. Now, first there's the opening sequence. In the first film, Ash is traveling up to the cabin with his sister, his best friend, his girlfriend, and his best friend's girlfriend. The opening to Evil Dead 2 is more of a synopsis of the first film, while omitting a lot of the characters and only keeping Linda. Now, it may look like he's returning to the cabin, but actually, it's just a way to keep the audience who hasn't seen the first film up to speed. Evil Dead 2 also has a bit of a backstory for the Necronomicon and sets up a few of the characters that will appear later on in the film. One of the sequences that's reenacted in the sequel is the death of Linda. Now, they needed to include it in the sequel because they were bringing her back. If you started the film without establishing that Ash had his girlfriend with him and killed her by chopping off her head with a shovel, it would make no sense that she shows up later headless and does her ballet dance. Another similarity between the two films is the forest attack. Now, in the first film, it was much more graphic in terms of what happens, and it happens all to Cheryl, Ash's sister. In Dead by Dawn, the forest attacks Bobby Joe. Bobby Joe! Now, let's just say the forest doesn't treat Bobby Joe quite the same as it does Cheryl, and we're gonna leave it at that. I think one of the most iconic things about the first film was locking Cheryl up in the cellar and having her poke her head out and be chained up in there, be taunting everybody from the cellar. And that's something that Raimi wanted to bring back for the sequel. Now, it might be confusing to a lot of people, and you could easily say, well, obviously it's a remake, but there is the distinction that in the sequel, it's Henrietta, the original owner's wife. The only reason she's brought back is because they turn on the tape recorder again and start listening.
I buried her in the cellar. God help me, I buried her in the earthen floor of the fruit cellar.
But most importantly is recognizing where the first film ends and the second film begins. So when I was in high school, I got my 3 VHS copies of the 3 films, and I linked them together by cutting off the end of the first film and the beginning sequence of Evil Dead 2 and linking those two together at this exact point. I also did the same with the end of the second film and the beginning of Army of Darkness, creating on a cassette tape one long film of the Evil Dead trilogy. So when I was doing this, I noticed a few similarities with the end of the first film and where you need to cut into the sequel. In both films, the shot starts with a shot to the ground on a leaf. Then the shot starts moving through the forest toward the back of the cabin. The camera shot comes through the cabin and bursts out the front door. When the camera gets to Ash, the screen goes black, credits roll. In the second film, when the camera gets to Ash, he gets picked up and spun through the trees. And from that point on, you're in Dead by Dawn. So there you go, Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, officially a sequel. Happy Halloween, everyone.